Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at a real giant from the past, Deinosuchus.
That's right, a prehistoric crocodilian.
And specifically, we're digging into some newer research published over on nature.com in communications biology that sort of shakes up what we thought we knew. Relevant stuff for UPSC prep, too.
Absolutely. For a long time, the idea was Deinosuchus was, well, basically like a giant alligator.
Right, just bigger.
Pretty much. But this new work, looking closely at fossils, comparing them with living crocs, even using DNA data, it tells a different story.
Okay, so set the scene. When and where was this thing?
We're talking late Cretaceous period, so maybe 82 down to 75 million years ago.
Okay.
And it was living in North America, mainly in rivers, estuaries, coastal areas.
And the size, I hear it was impressive.
Oh, definitely. Think school bus length.
Wow.
Yeah, and teeth like bananas. This was a serious predator.
Okay, so the big finding from this new study, it wasn't an alligator relative.
Exactly. That's a core conclusion. When they rebuilt the family tree using all this evidence, Deinosuchus actually groups much more closely with crocodiles.
Okay, so why is that distinction, alligator versus crocodile relative, so important here?
Well, it comes down to physiology, mainly salt tolerance. Modern crocodiles have special glands, salt glands, that let them live in or tolerate salt water.
Alligators don't have those, right? They're freshwater mostly.
Precisely. And the evidence, the fossil evidence, suggests Deinosuchus did have these salt glands, like crocodiles.
Ah, okay. So it could handle salt water.
It seems so. And that's, well, kind of game changer for understanding where it lived and how it got around.
How so?
Because back then, North America was split in two by a huge body of water, the Western Interior Seaway.
Right, I remember that. A massive inland sea.
Massive. We're talking over 1,000 kilometers wide in places.
So if Deinosuchus was just an alligatorid, strictly freshwater, crossing that sea would be a problem.
A huge problem. But if it had salt tolerance like a crocodile,
it could potentially cross it, or at least live along the saltwater coastlines of it.
Exactly. And that fits the fossil evidence because we find Deinosuchus remains on both sides of where that seaway was, on Laramidia in the west and Appalachia in the east.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense then. Salt glands explain the distribution?
It resolves a long-standing puzzle. The old idea that maybe early alligators had salt glands and then lost them, there wasn't really strong evidence for that.
Gotcha. So this wasn't just floating in rivers. It could handle the coasts, maybe even open water journeys. And what about its diet? You mentioned huge teeth.
Well, we have some pretty compelling evidence like Deinosuchus tooth marks found on dinosaur bones.
Seriously? On dinosaur bones?
Yep. Suggests it was either hunting dinosaurs that came too close to the water or maybe scavenging their carcasses. Either way, it shows what a formidable predator it was in those ancient wetlands.
Wow. So this new picture connects the dots better. The physiology, the distribution, the potential prey. It sounds like incorporating some other fossils helped too.
Yes, the researchers included data from some extinct crocodilians that hadn't really been factored in properly before. Kind of like, filling in some evolutionary gaps.
Missing links almost.
In a way. And when you add them, the picture suggests saltwater tolerance is actually an older ancestral trait for crocodilians.
And the alligator branch lost it later.
That seems to be the case, which reinforces that Deinosuchus, with its salt tolerance, wasn't on that alligator branch.
And it also fits with the timing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Early true alligators, they weren't giants like Deinosuchus.
Not at all. They were much smaller. Alligators only really got huge much, much later, geologically speaking, around 34 million years ago, long after Deinosuchus was gone.
So Deinosuchus wasn't some kind of proto-giant alligator. It was its own thing, closer to crocodiles.
A distinct lineage, yes. A giant saltwater-tolerant crocodile relative.
Which leads to a broader point, maybe relevant for understanding evolutionary patterns for UPSC. This wasn't the only giant crocodilian, was it?
Oh, absolutely not. Giant crocodilians have evolved multiple times throughout history. Different lineages, different time periods, even during ice ages. It seems like becoming enormous is something crocodilians just do sometimes.
Huh. Maybe being huge is almost the norm, evolutionarily, for them under the right conditions.
It's certainly a recurring theme, which raises a fascinating question for you, the listener, to think about.
Go on.
What environmental factors or perhaps evolutionary pressures might consistently favor this kind of gigantism in crocodilians over millions of years?
That's a great question to ponder. So, wrapping up, the key takeaway. Deinosuchus, massive, saltwater capable, more crocodile than alligator, ruling the coasts and rivers of a divided North America. a crucial case study in evolution and ancient geography.
And a reminder that science is always refining our understanding based on new evidence.
Definitely. You can read the original study this is based on over at nature.com. If you found this deep dive useful for your UPSC prep or just interesting, do give us a like, subscribe for more, and drop any questions in the comments.
We'll try to address them. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.